Hello my students of class 8. Today I am going to continue with the story that we started from the supplementary text reader, that is The Open Window. The very hilarious account of how Mr. Frampton Nuttall finds himself in a very awkward situation, as well as a situation which leads to some very horrible moments for him. Now let us recapitulate what is the background or the setting of the story. Frampton Nuttall has been prescribed by his doctor that he needs to stay at a countryside for a while so that he can have a cure for his nerves. Okay, so because of that he comes to the countryside, and on his sister's insistence he goes to pay visits to complete strangers, and one such visit he comes across the character of a very young girl who is very smart and very self-possessed, and this girl somehow starts having a conversation with him about the people who belonged to that house. Okay, now she was a very clever girl, and she was trying to tell him a story about her aunt and her husband and brothers and what happened to them. So today we are going to continue from page number 56 towards the end. I'm going to start from this paragraph today. So Frampton Nuttall was just sitting there with this young girl who happened to be the niece of Mrs. Sappleton, and Mrs. Sappleton is the woman whose house he had come to visit. Now this girl tells him an account which was very, very horrific for him, especially because he suffered from a disease. Okay, he suffered from a nerval disease, not exactly a disease, more like a, he had a problem in nerves. Okay, so he had a problem accepting things, he has a problem communicating properly, interacting with people, he got scared very easily. Okay, so his nerves were very weak. Okay, his nerves were very weak. Now then she starts to tell him, or rather ask him, that why do you think we have kept that French window open? Now I remember I asked you to look out for the word French window and to find the related images. Okay, so French window is just like a big window, a very big window with a low sill, low height sill, so that anybody could climb over that. Okay, it's not exactly a window, it's more like a door. Okay, but it is a French window. Now she asks him that why do you think we have kept that French window open at this time of the year when it's so cool? Then Mr. Nuttall said it's probably because it's not so cold this time of the year as it should be. But the niece told him that it's not actually the reason why we keep that window open. Well, this is the titular window, the open window, the name of the title which is there. It actually comes, or it actually springs, because the story which this girl tells him revolves around that window. Okay, now she tells him that out through that window, follow your book, page number 56, supplementary book. Out through that window 3 years ago to a day, her husband and her 2 young brothers went off for their day's shooting. They never came back. In crossing the moor to their favorite shooting ground, they were all 3 engulfed in a treacherous piece of bog. It had been that dreadful wet summer, and and places that were safe in other years gave way suddenly without warning. Their bodies were never recovered. That was the dreadful part of it. Here, the child's voice lost its self-possessed note and became falteringly human. That means towards the end, when she said that their bodies were never recovered, her voice became very human-like. That means a human is somebody, that means a person who has lots of emotions, who is not always confident and carefree. She had this confident voice all throughout, but towards the end of her story, her voice becomes falteringly human. That means it was also behaving like a human voice. That means it became emotional. This line only means that her voice became a little loaded with emotion, as if she felt sadness for that reason. Okay, now come to the next page. Poor aunt always thinks that they will come back someday. They and the little brown spaniel that was lost with them and walk in at that window just as they used to do. That is why the window is kept open every evening till it is quite dusk. Poor dear aunt, she has often told me how they went out. Her husband with his white waterproof coat over his arm, and Ronnie, her youngest brother, singing, "Bertie, why do you bound?" as he always did to tease her, because she said it got on her nerves. Do you know sometimes on still, quiet evenings like this, I almost get a creepy feeling that they will all walk in through that window. Oh my God, this girl is such a master at telling story, okay, and she tells him the entire details. She gives him a detail of what they were wearing even on the fateful day that they had walked out to the moor, what they were wearing. Her husband was wearing a waterproof coat, okay, and Ronnie was singing this song, "Bertie, why do you bound?" just to tease her, right? So then she tells him that sometimes on quiet evening I get a creepy feeling, I get a very weird and very supernatural kind of feeling that somebody might walk in through that window. Now this is the story that she tells Mr. Nuttall. We don't know whether this story is true or not, but we do know that Mr. Nuttall, who was already suffering from nerves, had become even more nervous, even more tensed by hearing this story, because this story is not only sad, it's also a bit fearful. Okay, now come to the next section of the story, the second section, which begins from page number 58. Okay. Here, the character of Mrs. Sappleton will be coming and joining Mr. Nuttall, and we will find out how much truthful this girl had been while talking about this incident. Okay. She broke off with a little shudder. Shudder means just making her whole body shake. Okay, a little bit. That means as if she was affected by the scary thing that happens, and as if she had that feeling at that moment, the creepy feeling that they might all walk in through that moor. Okay. It was relief to Frampton when the aunt bustled into the room with a whirl of apologies for being late in making her appearance. "I hope Vera has been amusing you," she said. So Vera is the name of the little girl, the young girl rather, and she was the one who was given Mr. Nuttall company, and the aunt bustles in. That means she comes in a hurried manner, okay, in a noisy manner, and then she just made apologies that "I'm sorry, I've been late, I'm sorry," and all that. And then he said, "She has been very interesting." Yes, she has been very interesting. She has told me some interesting things, as if. "I hope you don't mind the open window," said Mrs. Sappleton briskly. Briskly means very quickly. "My husband and brothers will be home directly from shooting, and they always come this way. They have been out for snipe in the marshes today, so they will..." Snipe is a kind of bird. Okay, so snipe shooting. They have been out for snipe in the marshes today, so they'll make a fine mess over my poor carpets. So like you men spoke, isn't it? She rattled on cheerfully about the shooting and scarcity of birds and prospects for duck in the winter. Okay, now already imagine Mr. Nuttall knew that all of them were dead. Mr. Nuttall also knew that this tragedy was looming over the household now, because it was not something somebody, and if the woman was talking to her in that casual manner about her husband and brothers walking in, it also told him that maybe this woman had lost her mind. So to be in the presence of a lunatic, as well as in the presence of a very creepy atmosphere, where Vera has already told him that her aunt has this weird thought, or her aunt has not been able to accept their death, and so she keeps that window open hoping they will come back. Okay, so just think, she's talking about people who are no more to this man who was already suffering from a nerval problem. So for him this was too immense, right? to think that she was going on rattling about dead people, and she pretended as if they were not dead at all. Okay, and the fact that the window was actually open and she was looking there, okay, she was looking instinctively towards the window just to make sure if they're coming or not, just to see if they're coming or not, and that was very frightening for Mr. Nuttall, poor Mr. Nuttall. She rattled on cheerfully about the shooting and the scarcity of birds. So shooting, that means hunting animals, hunting birds is like a hobby, or it's like a pastime for people there. And maybe at that time it was not prohibited. Even now in some places hunting is not banned. Okay. But certain animals and certain birds who are extinct in species, you are not allowed to hunt or shoot for them. But in certain parts of the world, hunting or shooting animals is still considered to be like a sport for entertainment. I don't know for what purpose it is an entertainment, but it is said that. Okay, so this woman just goes on telling him that it's just like you men folk to go throughout your day for hunting and all, and not caring about whether it will make the room dirty. That means she said that snipe in the marshes, so they will make a fine mess over my poor carpets. That means they have gone over the marshy area, so their shoes and everything will be full of mud, and they will come and they will mess up my carpet. Okay. Then she went on saying of all those things in a very casual manner, just to make conversation with Frampton Nuttall. To Frampton, it was all purely horrible. He made a desperate but only partially successful effort to turn the talk to a less ghastly topic. Okay, so he tried a little bit so that she stopped talking about dead people, but she was not. She went on rattling, she went on chattering about dead people, about what they liked and all. But Frampton, for him this was a very horrible thing, so he was becoming more and more frightened. For a while he tried to change the subject into something which was less frightening, but he was not successful. He was conscious that his hostess was giving him only a fragment of her attention, and her eyes were constantly straying past him to the open window and the lawn beyond. So maybe he was sitting in such a posture that the open window was at the back of him. So the woman was talking to him, but he could understand that most of the time her mind was somewhere else. She was looking towards the open window to see if they are coming. Now for him it was so much horrible, because he was sitting there, he knew that they are dead, but he was in the company of this woman who was trying to make small talks about revolving around those dead people, and she was just giving him a fragment of her attention, and it seemed like she was constantly looking at the back of him. Okay. So this was very, very scary for Frampton. I think it would be scary for anybody, right? But for him it was doubly scary. It was certainly an unfortunate coincidence that he should have paid his visit on this tragic anniversary, because remember Vera told him that exactly on this day 3 years ago they had vanished. Okay, they had all been killed by that treacherous bog. Okay, I've told you what a bog is. If you want, you can see some reference images. Okay, from the internet you can find it out. Then he said, the doctors agree in ordering me complete rest and absence of mental excitement and avoidance of anything in the nature of violent physical exercise. So all these things doctor has asked me to avoid. Okay, that is, I should be completely restful, I should have a peaceful life, I shouldn't have any kind of exciting adventures, and obviously physical exhaustion is also not permissible for me. So he was just going on telling her all these things, hoping that maybe she will stop talking about this dead people. Okay. Announced Frampton, who labored under the tolerably widespread delusion that total strangers and chance acquaintances are hungry for the least detail of one's ailments and infirmities, their cause and cure. On the matter of diet, they are not so much in agreement, he continued. Okay, so this is a very funny way, funny way of saying it. So he is saying that he is going on rattling about his own health condition. Now you see, this is not just Frampton. There are some people in our society, you may also have mixed with people like that, who adults, generally adults, so who has a habit of talking about only their problems, only their physical ailments. Oh, I am having such a bad back pain all the day, doctor has told me to take this medicines, then I am having this, I have a pain here, I am feeling exhausted, and all the time they will be complaining, okay, about their health and what ailments. That means if it's okay if it is your own family, if it is your own relative, but to complete strangers, to people you have just met or chance acquaintances, to talk about your diseases in a detailed manner is obviously very monotonous and boring and tiresome for the person who is hearing, right? So Mr. Nuttall was under the impression that it is written delusion, that means the false impression that to talk about your ailments to complete strangers, that is complete strangers and chance acquaintances. Chance acquaintance means those people with whom you just have a very small familiarity, a very little acquaintance, okay, very small familiarity with a person whom you meet maybe once a year. Okay, so a person with whom you don't have so much familiarity, even those people, and complete strangers, that means those people who has no idea about who you are, those people who cares nothing about your health, even they are hungry for knowing the least detail about your physical ailment and cure. So Mr. Nuttall thought that anybody would be interested, or rather hungry, desirous to know about his particular physical problems and what the cure was. So for him, small talk revolved around topics regarding his mental and physical condition. Okay, so this is a very funny way of framing this, and Saki has written it in a very humorous and serious way. Okay, a very mocking yet serious manner. He has said that Nuttall had the delusion that people whom he didn't know much, they were always hungry to know about little details about his own health. Okay, so this is all this paragraph tells. And then he just says that on the matter of diet, that means the different doctors, they are not on agreement, but on the matter of other things, they are quite in agreement. Now, Mrs. Sappleton was constantly looking back and thinking when they are going to come. So she was just half in his conversation, and she said, "No," said Mrs. Sappleton, in a voice which only replaced a yawn at the last moment. Okay, like, no, like that, and she was trying to suppress a yawn. Okay. Then she suddenly brightened into alert attention, but not to what Frampton was saying. Then suddenly she was just going to yawn with him, and then suddenly she became bright. Okay, her face became bright and she was quite alert. The reason was, here they are at last. Now the picture which is given here is of a bright sunny day, but it's not actually the sunny day. It's towards evening, okay, evening time, when it's very light rays are not there, more or less. It's a grey sky and you cannot see clearly anything. So 3 shadows could be seen coming up the moor, and just imagine being in Mr. Nuttall's position and thinking that the dead people are actually coming back. For Mr. Nuttall, how horrific this is. Just imagine. Here they are at last, just in time for tea, and don't they look as if they were muddy up to the eyes? So she stands up and she says, here they are at last. Mr. Nuttall is thinking, the ghosts are back from the past. And then she says that they are just in time for tea. Okay, just imagine. And they look as if they were muddy up to the eyes. It means they are so much covered in mud, that means it seemed as if till their eyes, their whole body is covered with mud. Frampton shivered slightly, and turned towards the niece with a look intended to convey sympathetic comprehension. Okay, so Frampton has not yet looked back to see if they were there at last. He thought that this woman had gone completely crazy and she was a delusional woman and she was just hallucinating that they are coming back. So instead of looking back, he looked at Vera. He looked at Vera and he looked at Vera in a sympathetic manner, just to show her that I understand what condition you must be in because your aunt is so much delusional. She is even imagining them coming back. So he looked at Vera, and what did Vera do? Vera was looking back at the Moor in a very horrific fashion, okay, with a ghastly expression on her face. She was looking with a dazed horror. Dazed horror means horror which makes you dazed, which makes you speechless in her eyes. In a chill shock of nameless fear, Frampton swung round in his seat and looked in the same direction. Chill shock of nameless fear. He couldn't have thought that this was possible. But the way Vera had calculated her look towards the Moor in the perfect time, because she knew that Frampton would look at her. Okay, so she was looking in a horrific manner. Frampton looked at Vera, he looked back and he was looking with equal horrified expression on his face. In the deepening twilight, this is the time of the day, it was a twilight period, okay. Deepening twilight, that means the little light which was there, it was slowly fading out, it was quite more or less dark. Three figures were walking, but you could see the figures were walking across the lawn towards the window. He could see that three shadowy figures were actually coming through the lawn towards the window. They all carried guns under their arms, and one of them was additionally burdened with a white coat hung over his shoulders. Remember, Mrs. Appleton had told him that my husband, not Mrs. Appleton, Vera had told him that her husband carried a white coat over his arm. A tired brown spaniel kept close at their heels. That means he was walking towards their heels. Okay, that means he was also walking along with them. Noiselessly they neared the house, and then a hoarse young voice chanted out of the dusk, "I say, Bertie, why do you bound?" So it was the younger brother who used to say that thing. Vera had told Mr. Nuttall that, and that was the epic thing. That was too much for Mr. Nuttall to accept. What did he do? Frampton grabbed wildly at his stick and hat. The hall door, the gravel drive, the front door were dimly noted stages in his headlong retreat. A cyclist coming along the road had to run into the hedge to avoid imminent collision. So Frampton was under the impression that the ghosts were coming back from their hunting, and the ghosts were actually coming back, and one of the ghosts said, "Bertie, why do you bound?" As Vera had told him already that her younger brother used to tease her in that manner. And what did Frampton do? He grabbed whatever he could, his stick, okay, just his stick and his hat, whatever he had brought, and then he just rushed away. He just ran away. And how did he run? How did he run? He ran in such a manner that the hall door, that means the door of their house, the gravel drive, just right outside their house, the gravel drive which was there, that path, the front gate of the house were dimly noted stages. Dimly noted stages means he didn't even notice them. He just rushed by so fast that those three spots were completely unnoticed, more or less, by him. And then headlong retreat means a very rushing run. Okay, he retreated back to his home, to that countryside home that he had. Then a cyclist who was coming along the road saw him. He was running so fast that in order to avoid collision with the man, the cyclist had to turn his cycle and he ran into a hedge to avoid collision with Mr. Nuttall. Now, we are not going to find out what happens to Mr. Nuttall after this, but we do find out the setting of Mrs. Sappleton's house and how Vera tells or tries to make up for the way Mr. Nuttall had behaved. Okay, now this is also very hilarious. Just see. Now come back to their house. Those people had come back and the husband said, "Here we are, my dear," said the bearer of the white mackintosh coming in through the window. White coat, that is for rain, kind of like a raincoat. So he said, the husband of Mrs. Sappleton said, "Who was that who bolted out as we came up?" Bolting out means to run away very fast. Okay. So who was that man who just ran away when we came here? A most extraordinary man, a Mr. Nuttall. Suppose you are in the position of Mrs. Sappleton, a man comes to visit you. Okay, now very good, all right. You try to make some polite conversation, but all he talks about is his own health condition, and then something happens and he just runs away without talking to you. Runs away actually. Then he said, he could only talk about his illnesses and dashed off without a word of goodbye or apology when you arrived. One would think he had seen a ghost. Anybody would think that he had actually seen a ghost. So we can understand that these people were not dead. Okay, Mr. Sappleton and the other brothers of Mrs. Sappleton, they were not dead. It was just a story which Vera had made up. Okay, she had actually concocted a tale just to feed Mr. Nuttall, just to make him a fool. Okay, she has just made up this whole story just for her own amusement, and she had just fooled this man. Poor Mr. Nuttall, his disease was back in full force, I think, after this incident. Now this time you see what she tells about Mr. Nuttall and why did he run away. She again makes a story. "I expect it was the spaniel." So in a very innocent manner she said the niece calmly. "He told me he had a horror of dogs. Maybe he had seen the spaniel dog and that's why he ran away. He has told me that he was horrified of dogs. He was once hunted into a cemetery somewhere on the banks of the Ganges by a pack of dogs." So Ganga, okay. So somewhere in the banks of the Ganga river, he was hunted down by a pack of dogs and had to spend the night in a newly dug grave with the creature snarling and grinning and foaming just above him, enough to make anyone lose their nerve. So she just made up a completely strange and completely horrible tale to explain for the way Mr. Nuttall behaved. She said that Mr. Nuttall had a fear of dogs. She told them that his fear was because once upon a time he was chased by dogs in the banks of the river Ganga, and then he was chased by them, and because of that he fell into a grave. He had to spend the night in that grave only because the dogs were not allowing him to go away. Okay, they were snarling at him, grinning at him from above, and this incident gave him such a horrific experience that he has formed a permanent fear of dogs. This is also a horrific tale which she just made up. Now look at the last line of the story. "Romance at short notice was her specialty." That is, at a very short period of time to concoct, to make up a romantic story. Romance means story full of thrill, full of adventure, some kind of story which is going to make anybody's nerve weak. Those kinds of stories, thrilling stories, to make up stories like that was her specialty. She was such an imaginative person, and she was not only imaginative, she was also a very a woman, a girl who liked to make some practical pranks on people and to make short stories, to make up a short story in a very short notice, and not just any story, stories of horror, stories of thrill. It was her specialty. Okay, so with this we come to an end of this very hilarious tale, and with a little bit of sadness, because we do actually feel bad for this Mr. Nuttall who had come there all because of his sister, and then he had this horrible experience all because of this very witty girl, witty as well as a naughty girl who made up the story to scare him. Okay students, thank you for today's class. We will discuss this again in our online class.